Joining me now is Sky News contributor Kosha Gada. Kosha, we've got a new look American president who's putting out a lot of executive orders. What more can we expect from this bloke who I wonder whether he really knows what he's signing?
Good to be with you, Cory. Congratulations on the new show and a great opening episode. Look, I think the way to try and understand this moment in the arc of American history is through two lenses. One lens is the leadership and Biden and Congress. And, you know, right now the Democrats control 2 out of the 3 branches of government. And the most recent historical marker for that was 2008, when President Obama and then Vice President Joe Biden did. And what we know from that is, at least for the next 2 years until the midterms, they hold all the cards and they are not going to be shy to use it. So anything that was done by EO or can be done by EO, you're going to see done to advance the Democrats' agenda, and that's their prerogative. Every incoming administration does that. Anything that would be required to change statutorily in the legislature, you're going to see it be a really bitter, vicious fight, more than it ever has been before, because the Senate's in a dead heat, and the Democrats' margin in Congress shrunk because Republicans picked up 10 or 11 seats last time. So it's going to be a bitter, vicious fight. But in the end, I think a few of their top statutory priorities will pass, similar to Obamacare, which was one of the most partisan pieces of legislation in modern history that was passed. And I think that's what's going to happen at least till 2022.
Kosha, if American history is any guide, and even Australian history, when a single party controls the ability to get or ram through legislation through parliaments or through Congress, they tend to overstep the mark a little bit, and there's a bit of a backlash in a couple of years' time when the Congress is up for re-election. Would you expect maybe the Democrats might suffer from that sort of arrogance and hubris?
I think, again, going back to the historical marker of Obama, that happened in 22. I think his words were they took a shellacking. And I think, you know, all eyes are going to be on the 2022 midterms, not only with respect to the Democrats, but also with respect to Republican primaries, because there's a lot of sort of unsung drama that has been unfolding there and is going to continue as well. So I think all eyes are going to be on that. But I think the point is that they know how to use. One thing that has to be said about the Democrats is they definitely are not shy to use power when they have it. And even if there's a backlash or whiplash 2 years in, their agenda in those 2 years that gets passed is going to happen. And, you know, Obamacare is still the law of the land in the U.S., even though it remains very unpopular. But that was something that happened in those 2 years. So a lot can happen before 2022.
Hey, Kosha, I tell you, I've got to ask you this. Have you been following the GameStop theory, where the small punter has struck back against the hedge fund and realised that the entire game seems to be rigged against them as the trading houses got in to back the hedge funds over, you know, mum and dad punter who are spending their $2,000 stimulus checks on the stock market? What do you make of it all?
So this story has really captivated the country over the past week or so. And it actually, you know, going back to your previous question, Cory, it's a microcosm of the state of the electorate, which is the other lens at which to look at the country that I was alluding to, where the reason why people are fascinated by it is there's multiple layers. So one is it's this classic David versus Goliath story, and inherently there's story value in that. People love to see the little guy, the underdog, take on sort of the apex predators of Wall Street, which is what happened with this story. The other piece of it, though, is it harkens back on a more serious note to the 2008 global financial crisis, where not only what happened and sort of the institutional organized capital taking massive risks that didn't pay off, but then the aftermath of that, the way the different power structures tended to align with bailing them out, whereas people, a lot of them had their net worth wiped out for a generation or two, and they probably never even recovered. So this is kind of the same thing.
This story isn't finished yet, and unfortunately this show is finished for tonight, so I look forward to you joining me another time.